What is up guys, Delboy here. I just wanted to make a quick video about Jarrell Miller versus Johann Duhaupas. The fight takes place this weekend and is on the undercard of the Danny Jacobs fight. Obviously Jarrell Miller going into this fight is the guy who is the favourite. He's been the guy who's been put in there to look good and he's expected to win. And being that we're in a climate now in the heavyweight division where everybody is only talking about Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder, anything less than a great performance from Jarrell Miller is not really going to register. That's just the reality. And I feel that getting a great performance against Johann Duhaupas and looking great and winning in spectacular fashion is going to be easier said than done. Do I think Johann Duhaupas is a world level fighter? Not really. But is he capable? Yes. Is he durable? Yes. He's quite a big heavyweight, he's 6'5.5". He's got a lot of experience. He's had over 40 fights. He's fought very good competition. He's been in there with the likes of Alexander Povetkin. He took Deontay Wilder 11 rounds and had some success. He beat Robert Helenius. He beat Manuel Charr. He had a close fight against Erkan Tepe when Erkan Tepe was really at his best. So Johann Duhaupas over the years, although he's not always won at a world-class level, he's acquitted himself fairly well, Against guys like Deontay Wilder and Povetkin, he's always going to come up short. But guys below that, guys like Robert Helenius, Manuel Charr, Erkan Tepe, he can get some wins, and at the very least, he's going to be very competitive. I only feel that the elite level heavyweights are going to easily beat Johann Duhaupas. And I've got to say, I'm not sure Jarrell Miller is an elite level heavyweight. From what I've seen from Jarrell Miller so far, I've not really been that impressed. I know a lot of guys out there like him, and I can see why. He does do some things well, but for the most part, to me, he doesn't do anything special. Firstly, defensively, Jarrell Miller is very open, he's very vulnerable, and he gets hit a lot. I know he does roll with shots quite well, he does ride with shots quite well, but regardless, he gets hit too much. Jarrell Miller's last two fights were against Mariusz Wach and against Gerald Washington, and these guys were his two step-up fights so far. To me, those two guys are not world-level fighters. They are solid, sort of fringe-level contenders, but that's about it. And those guys were finding the target way too often. Gerald Washington was consistently finding the target with the jab. As Jarrell Miller was coming forward, also he was finding the target with that right hand occasionally when he was throwing it. There was actually a moment in the Gerald Washington fight where Washington catches Jarrell Miller with a big right hand, and it actually really does. It stops Miller in his tracks for a few seconds, and he has to shake it off to reset himself. Washington isn't a big puncher, and he was finding the target far too regularly with his straight punches for my likings. And I'm not saying he hurt Jarrell Miller, but what I'm saying is he landed that one shot that had some sort of effect on him, and Washington is not a big puncher. Also in the Mariusz Wach fight, Mariusz Wach is past his best at this stage. He is durable, so credit to Miller for stopping him, but Mariusz Wach is as slow as molasses, and Wach was managing to time Miller with the jab a little too often for my liking. Wach isn't anything special, especially this version of Mariusz Wach, who's taken a couple of beatings against Klitschko and Povetkin. This version of Wach is well past his best, and he was still finding the target quite regularly as well. To me, it's a little bit alarming that Gerald Washington and Mariusz Wach had as much success as they did on Jarrell Miller. Now Jarrell Miller beat these guys comfortably. He consistently outworked both of them, and he broke them down. And he did a lot well. He works the body very well. He's quite competent on the inside. Like I said, although he gets hit too much, he does actually have a good knack of rolling with shots when he gets hit, so he takes the sting out of them. He also has very high output for a heavyweight, and for a guy of his size, that's quite impressive. He does have a real high punch output. So the guy does do some things very well, and his punch output is quite a unique sort of... It's a unique trait at heavyweight, so he does do some things well and he's got some things going for him, and he does seem fairly tough, but he has a lot of glaring flaws, and I've not seen enough so far to suggest that he is going to be a contender for the heavyweight title or for a heavyweight belt. I've not seen enough. And I feel that it's good he's fighting somebody like Duhaupas. Like I said, Duhaupas is a guy who is pretty limited, but he is competent. He's fought good competition. He's experienced. He's fairly big for a heavyweight. He's got a little bit of power. You know, he brings certain attributes to the table that Miller needs to figure out. So I feel that this is another good fight for Miller and another fight where he's going to learn a lot from. So I think it's good matchmaking. But it's going to be an interesting fight because is Duhaupas a step up from Washington and Wack? I would pick Duhaupas to beat that version of Wack. And I also feel he could beat Gerald Washington on his day. So, I mean, potentially this is Miller's toughest fight so far. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles Duhaupas. Also, like I said, Duhaupas has a bit of power. He's not a one-punch artist. He's not like a crazy puncher. But he has respectable power at heavyweight. And if he finds the target as regularly as Washington and as regularly as Marius Wack, it's going to be interesting to see how Miller takes these shots, especially if he finds the target regularly. You know, if he can pop that jab and fire that right hand behind it, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how Miller responds. And going in as well, it's going to be interesting to see what defensive changes Miller's made, because he does need to shape up defensively. It's just that simple. Gets hit far too often, and I keep on going over that point. So I think this is good matchmaking for Jarrell Miller. After the Marius Wack fight, he was talking about fighting the likes of Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, and that's all fair and good. He needs to be doing that, but I still feel he is some way off fighting at that level. He needs more of these type of fights. I felt the Washington fight and the Wack fight were great fights at the time of his career, and I feel this is the same type of fight. You know, he needs these type of fights to build up experience, to get rounds in the bank, to learn against different styles, to figure out different problems. These are the type of fights he needs. Now, I expect him to win this fight, but I think he will have some shaky moments. I think Duhaupas will again expose some of the defensive flaws in Miller. But I feel Miller overall is going to get through this. I feel his punch output is considerably higher than Duhaupas's. I feel on the inside, Miller is a lot better. I just feel he's going to go in this fight with a lot more hunger, a lot more desire, and he's a lot fresher. You know, Duhaupas took a bit of a beating against Deontay Wilder. He took a bad knockout loss to Povetkin, and he's had a long career in general. So I feel Miller, being the fresher man, the better inside fighter, the guy with a higher output, is going to get the job done here. But I feel it's going to be a tough fight. If Miller somehow pulls out a devastating one-sided performance, then people are going to start talking. Because Miller, as flawed as he is, does bring excitement. He fights with an aggressive style. He brings certain attributes that a lot of heavyweights don't have, like punch output. And he can talk, you know. Miller's got a lot of good things going for him. So a devastating win against Duhaupas will definitely raise his profile. And like I said at the start of the video, a bad performance in this fight, given the climate of a heavyweight division, where the vast majority are only talking about Joshua and Wilder, you know, a bad performance isn't going to do him any good whatsoever. So he needs to pull out a real good performance against Duhaupas. I think this is an interesting fight. It's a fight where I make Miller quite a substantial favourite, but the interesting thing to me is how he wins this fight, how good he looks. Has he corrected his flaws? You know, has he improved? This is what I'm going to be looking for. What do you guys think of this fight? Peace.